Salutations, ladies and gentlemen, the Streaming Enderman here, back again with another video, and I apologize, it's been a while since my last video, sorry for that, but I figured I'd start the channel back up again with something a little bit more basic. Now, by basic, I'm referring to the Taylor's Eyewitness basic line, and this particular model is the Lambfoot. Now, I've never, up until this knife, I've never had a Lambfoot by Taylor's Eyewitness. I do know that they make ram's horn and ironwood Lambfoots, the premier collection ones, but this is just a basic one. Put it back in the box just so you can see what it looks like. Pattern 160, Sheffield made classic knife. You've got their warranty, their care instructions. Keep it oiled, keep it dry, keep it sharp, keep it cutting. And made with pride in Sheffield, England. So this is the box it comes in. Nice little box. Inside you have your clear plastic container, and then from there you can just pull the knife out. Nothing fancy with the packaging, and the knife itself, which also isn't particularly fancy, is surprisingly well made. Now these are just a little over 20 pounds. I believe these are all made by Lee White. I do know he has an apprentice now, I believe, so it could have been made by his apprentice, but up until then, these are all made by Lee White, who does all the premier collection knives, which are absolutely gorgeous, but are, 10 times the price. But anyways, this knife, which is part of the basic lineup, features a simple satin finished Lambfoot blade. You can see this Lambfoot isn't very aggressive. It's a very gentle curve, which I quite like. I think that a Lambfoot can either be an aggressive curve or a more gentle curve. This is more the latter. If you want an example of an aggressive looking Lambfoot, I think a good example would be an Arthur Wright. As you can see, this one has a very noticeable curve at the very front. It's perfectly straight and then it dips down. Well, this one's a bit more of a gentle slope. I think out of the two styles, I prefer this one, as it looks a bit more unique and further distances it from the Wharncliffe. This one almost looks like somewhat of a modified Wharncliffe, but it's still probably very good at cutting nonetheless. Got a pretty basic steel. I believe these are 420HC or 440C. Nothing too special, no S45VN, no M390. Got your Eyewitness Sheffield, England stamp, which could have been a little bit better. It's cut off a little at Sheffield. Don't know if you can see that very well, but it cuts off a little there, which, these are very inexpensive knives, so that kind of thing it's passable. It's fine. Let's check the transitions. Very, very smooth from bolsters to covers. Very flush pins. The wood on here, which is not specifically named, it's not rosewood or mahogany, it's just described as hardwood. This could be anything from just a basic kind of rosewood type, but when comparing it to a knife that I know is rosewood, you can see it's far less rich. This is the Groman Slimline, one of my recent knives, and one of my favorite knives too. This one has a much nicer grain pattern. Some coats of oil will definitely help this though. I've tried oiling it a little, but even then it's still a little dry. Still quite nice though. One thing I do like is the brushed steel bolsters. This is something I've always enjoyed. Bolsters that are shiny are nice, but they take fingerprints really badly. You can see these get fingerprints all the time. Brushed steel bolsters never do that. They can't pick up fingerprints. They are very, very resistant to that. And thus, they just feel more like a working knife, not a piece of jewelry that you put on a shelf, which I appreciate. Very user-friendly. Let's check the back. The transition from blade to spring is very good. Steel liners, steel spring, all stainless steel. Now this is the only main flaw I can find in this knife. A very noticeable gap, starting probably about a quarter way from the start of the bolster and leading almost entirely through the rest of the knife. So that is a noticeable gap. That is a little bit unfortunate. But again, you have to remind yourself, 20-pound knife. Definitely excusable at that price. Of course, this has a... Does this one have? No, this one does not have a stop pin. But the blade does not actually hit anything, as this cutoff will hit the back spring before the blade is able to. It's got a pretty good spring here. I'd rate it about probably about a 6. Not quite a 7. Maybe a 7 almost. Easily a 6. Centering is almost perfect. I think that is perfect. The cutoff on the back spring is lovely. One thing about these that is noticeable is they're not very well ground. You can see that the sides are a little uneven. You can see this one is a bit longer, and this one, the bolsters aren't perfectly even. You can even see that up here. Not quite even. See, this one's a bit shorter. Straightness in the blade is pretty good. But again, though, the handle is just a little bit off. Very comfortable knife. Full 4-finger grip fills the hand. That bulbous end is very, very comfortable. Good for detail work, like a Wharncliffe or a Sheepfoot. Very, very nice. I kind of consider the Lambfoot as a cross between a Sheepfoot and a Wharncliffe, which are two of my favorite blade shapes, so you can understand why I'd like this type of shape. Nice nail nick, very easy to use. Very nice action. I will give the knife that. It's very satisfying to use. Most people say there's no fidget factor in slip joint knives, but I disagree. This one's very nice. So, what are my overall thoughts? I think that for the price, this is a steal. This is a great, great knife. The same thing goes with its counterpart, which in my opinion is a little bit better fit and finish-wise. The basic Taylor's Eyewitness Barlow. Same brush steel bolsters, hardwood handle, and non-polished blade. This one, however, has the half stop that I really like and that brilliant cutoff. But that's part of the design of the Barlow from Taylor's Eyewitness. So yes, my thoughts on this are very well made for the price. If this was a $60, $70 knife, I don't know if I could really excuse the gapping and the bad cutoff, but for the price, this is a steal. This is a very good price for a very user-friendly knife. I think that the centering is really good, which surprised me. The cutoff is great. The pins are flush. The transitions are great. I didn't expect any of that. There's no blade play up and down, left to right. Cutoff with the spring is good. The blade is straight. It's got a nice nail nick. Nice choil there, so you can... Nice cutoff on the blade so you can sharpen it easily. Very easy to sharpen blade profile. The stamp could be a little bit better, but it's still possible to read it. It's just a little tricky. And the covers may not be particularly fancy, but again, 20-pound knife, easy to excuse. It's better than synthetic. I'll always take wood over synthetic any day. So really, this is a good example of a classic workman's knife. It's not a fancy knife. It's not a premier collection. It's nothing like that. Heck, even this, which is again another reasonably decent price knife, the Case Swayback Gent, even this has a more, I guess you could say, fancy aura to it, with the bone handles and the polished blade. But again, this is far cheaper. And because of that, all the minor flaws it's got can be easily excused. No, overall, very solid knife, very solid purchase. And if you like this design, but you want something a bit fancier with the polished blade and the file work, consider going to Farrar and Tanner, and you can find this exact knife, but with ram's horn, really nice buttery ram's horn, polished bolsters and blade, and file work. It's about 195 Canadian, so Again, much more expensive, but you should consider checking that out. I got this at the famous Sheffield shop, my current and probably will always be my favorite British knife dealer. Absolutely amazing customer service. Go give them a call if you have any questions or send them an email. They're very quick to respond. I personally recommend either Jordan or Jane. They're both absolutely lovely staff. They are very quick to respond, very helpful, very insightful. Please go check out the famous Sheffield shop. And if you want, snag one of these. They got some of them in stock, along with the Barlows. Have some of these as well, and the Premier Collection Barlows, which you can pick up. They also have some Arthur Wrights and some Joseph Rogers, so if you're interested, please go check them out. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I just really, really love their customer service, and they're just an absolutely great establishment. Please go check them out. So, this has been the Taylor's Eyewitness Basic Lambfoot. Absolute steal. Get one. If you want a traditional Sheffield pocket knife for a good price, this should be your first choice. And if you like this enough, maybe consider upgrading to an Arthur Wright & Son knife, which is like the slight step up. And if you enjoy one of those, maybe consider going with a Joseph Rogers. And if you enjoy that, consider maybe a Taylor's Eyewitness Premier Collection or something along that line. But in the meantime, this has been the Taylor's Eyewitness Basic Lambfoot Pocket Knife, and this is the Streaming Enderman, signing off. Goodbye.